She stared at the single candle flickering in the cupcake on her kitchen counter. 32 years of birthdays, yet this one felt like all the others, so lonely, quiet, uncelebrated. For a woman who spent her days crafting stories that lit up headlines, building reputations that dazzled in magazines, she couldn't remember the last time anyone in her own family had looked at her with that same sparkle of admiration. The sound of her phone buzzing on the counter broke her thoughts. A family group chat picture popped up. Her parents, aunts, uncles, cousins all gathered at a banquet hall bathed in golden light. Her younger brother, Daniel, the golden child, stood at the center, champagne in hand, as the crowd sang loudly. But it wasn't his birthday, it was hers. The text from her mother read, "Sorry we couldn't do both at once. Sweetheart." Daniel already had the hall booked for his new promotion celebration. "We'll celebrate you another time, okay?" Her chest tightened, but she simply placed her phone face down. She'd spent years swallowing that same bitter pill, dressing her wounds with logic. Daniel had always been the only star athlete, charming husband, father-to-be. She was the one who quietly paid her own way through graduate school, worked grueling hours, and built a career in an industry that consumed her soul. And still, her family saw her as a broken bar expendable. But what came next would be the breaking point. The next evening, her mother called. "Darling," she began in that soft but pointed tone, "Daniel and Emily's anniversary is coming up. We're planning something really special, a black tie gala. He deserves it after everything he's done for this family." She bit back a reply. Everything he's done? Daniel had taken loans from their father, leaned on family connections for jobs, and still lived in a house his parents had helped buy. She, on the other hand, had never asked for a dime. Her mother's voice went on. "We've calculated the budget. For your part, we'll need you to contribute $20,000. Silence. $20,000. It wasn't that she didn't have it. She'd been smart, disciplined, careful. But the sheer audacity of the request hit her like a slap across the face. "For his party?" she asked, voice shaking. "Yes, sweetheart. You know he's always done so much. We just need everyone to step up." Something inside her cracked, like glass finally shattering after years of hairline fractures. For the first time, she didn't swallow the bitterness. She let it out. "No," she said firmly. "Not a penny." Her mother gasped on the other end. "What do you mean, no? You make more than enough, and it's your brother's anniversary. How can you be so selfish?" The word stung. Selfish. After years of staying silent, carrying her own burdens, and quietly achieving what none of them had imagined possible. She drew in a long breath, her heart racing, her voice trembling but steady. "I have spent my entire life proving myself to you," she said, "and every time, you've looked right past me. When I bought my own apartment at 28, silence. When I landed the biggest PR client of my career, nothing. But Daniel gets applause for breathing. And now you expect me to hand over $20,000 for him? Number. I will not keep funding his pedestal while you pretend I don't exist." There was silence on the other end. Heavy. Cold. Her mother sputtered something about family obligations, about appearances. But she had already made up her mind. That night, she cried harder than she had in years, and not out of weakness, but out of release. It was grief, really, grieving the family she wished she had, the acknowledgement she'd never receive, the little girl inside her who had spent years waiting to be chosen. But when the tears stopped, something shifted. She realized she had spent her life waiting for her family to clap for her, waiting for them to validate her worth. And in that waiting, she had robbed herself of her own applause. She had built an empire of accomplishments, yet she had allowed their neglect to make her feel small. The next morning, she made a choice. She booked a flight not for her brother's anniversary party, but to a small coastal town she had always dreamed of visiting. She turned off the family group chat notifications, closed her laptop, and packed her bags. For the first time, she was going to celebrate herself. On her 32nd birthday, standing on a quiet beach at sunrise, the salty air filling her lungs, she whispered into the waves, "I am enough. I always have been," and she meant it. Her family was furious when she didn't show up to the gala. The phone calls poured in, dripping with guilt and disappointment. But she no longer absorbed their words like poison. Instead, She listened calmly and responded with a newfound strength. "I love you, but I will not sacrifice myself for Daniel anymore. If you can't see my worth without me paying for it, then I don't need your approval." It didn't happen overnight. The hurt didn't vanish instantly. But piece by piece, she reclaimed herself. She started hosting small dinners with her own circle of friends, of people who celebrated her wins, toasted her joys, and stood beside her during her struggles. She began mentoring younger women in her field, women who looked at her with the admiration she had craved her whole life. And most importantly, she finally learned that her value was not up for debate. By the time her 33rd birthday rolled around, she didn't wait for anyone to plan it. She threw herself a party intimate, meaningful, full of laughter and light. She raised her glass, looked around the room, and realized something profound. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes, it's the people who see you, cherish you, and clap the loudest when you shine. And as she blew out her candle that year, she didn't wish for her family to love her more. She wished for courage, the courage to keep choosing herself, because that, she realized, was the most powerful love of all. AODIRS's message for viewers: don't wait for others to celebrate your worth. Sometimes, the greatest gift you can give yourself is to stop chasing applause that was never meant for you and to start clapping for yourself.